Hello, my name is Diana Dirkby, and I live with paranoid schizophrenia. You are listening to my podcast show, Schizophrenia as I Live It, and today is Chapter 8, entitled Evidence to the Contrary. The soundbite you heard at the beginning is from Pastime with Good Company, composed by King Henry VIII and performed by the Chestnut Brass Company. One of the often quoted symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia is a loss of touch with reality. However, it is important to stress that the person living with schizophrenia and currently struggling with its symptoms still perceives the world in a way that convinces them and can make sense to them. The LEAP method we discussed in a previous podcast takes account of this scenario. Suppose you are dealing with someone undergoing a crisis with schizophrenia and behaving in an unusual way that you cannot explain by what is happening in that person's environment. In that case, it serves nothing to point out why their interpretations are faulty and that the actual picture is so-and-so. In my experience of living with schizophrenia, a relapse or psychotic break brings a sudden change in what my senses tell me and a conviction that my mind is an open book to be read and written in by people wanting my downfall. My feelings and my mind are trying to work together even though I am struggling. In a persecutory state, my senses are perturbed and my mind tries to interpret that perturbation. My reality may not coincide with the consensus of those around me about what is going on, but it is genuine and convincing to me. A negative or argumentative interaction with me by someone who may also be afraid of me does nothing but distress me and add to my feeling of persecution. Their reality, with which they may confront me, does not coincide with mine. I have evidence to the contrary, or at least I believe I do. The best avenue for someone to take with me is to neither agree nor disagree with how I perceive the world. The best tactic is simply to understand I need kind support. They can acknowledge that they realize I am experiencing things in a way that is real to me without trying to talk me out of it. In fact, they can try to draw me out so that they have a better picture of my state of mind and my current personal reality. Before I was correctly diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, my breaks from the consensus reality were painful. What I perceived in my reality was frightening and confusing. In my book, The Overlife, A Tale of Schizophrenia, the character Sarah, modelled on myself, describes in great detail similar episodes of psychotic breaks before an official diagnosis that would help her seek the correct care. Luckily, these days, I have an excellent psychiatrist and psychologist. Even with the medication, however, I can relapse. For example, if I am under too much stress, the medication and therapy can have trouble holding back a psychotic break. Yet, I have some objectivity thanks to my medication, and I usually, within a few weeks of a mental health crisis beginning, contact my doctors. I know something is wrong, even if I believe in my reality under psychosis. So my go-to people are my doctors. My doctors know me well enough to help me gain stability via therapy and medication. Therefore, these days, I am not looking to anyone but my doctors for help recovering a reality closer to the consensus of those around me. So, what can that other reality be like? The one that my schizophrenia symptoms impart. Again, I refer to my book and the character Sarah, where her psychotic breaks are described in detail and are similar to mine. We'll spend the rest of the podcast talking about some examples. A relapse or psychotic break usually begins with a period of stress. Something upsets me, and that may turn into an obsession. The feeling is nothing like depression, even though I may be upset. It can also happen that I am stressed through feeling too euphoric, as the euphoria brings with it a conviction that I am responsible for the fate of many people. Usually, however, it is worry, stress, and obsession that cause me to break from consensual reality. The first thing I notice is a big change in what my sensory perception tells me. Suddenly, the world is drastically different, and it seems real to me, as that is what my senses tell me. The hallucinations typical of paranoid schizophrenia cause me to hear conversations that are not taking place and to see things that are not there. In my case, there is also a phenomenon of hearing what is truly said and seeing what is truly there, but pasting my own mental reaction onto it that is not the reaction I would have during periods of good mental health. So I may see someone who is really there and become convinced they are inserting thoughts into my brain. I may see someone who is really there, but I identify them with someone else, usually someone who scares me. I am convinced, at least in my case, that the delusional part of my schizophrenia is a product of my brain trying to sort out what my senses are telling me. I try to find a reason for this drastic change. Often I deduce that the world doesn't want me and can't wait to get rid of me. Luckily, I never feel that way about my spouse, but I do worry that he may be in danger because of me. I have by now enough experience with myself and enough faith in my doctors that at some point I understand that I must see them to get some relief. I may still be thoroughly convinced of my different reality when I see them, but they are used to dealing with me and with that situation. That's why I place so much faith in the medical profession. I know that is not true for many who live with schizophrenia or who may have anosognosia. That is some of my story, and I'm sure we'll talk about such matters again. Thank you for listening. Let's end by listening to a soundbite of Glenn Gould playing Bach's Chromatic Fantasy and Fugue, BWV 903.